Hey guys, in this episode, we're going to continue building our battle manager actor blueprint, and this is really the core key function of our gameplay loop. It's also, I anticipate, going to be one of the more complicated features that we're working on, and that's why historically I've kind of just procrastinated with it and delayed it as much as I could. So, uh, this is us building it now, and I got some help from our friend ChatGPT. So I'm going to try to summarize this as best as I can. But in the last episode, we just created placeholders for our functions. And then I spent majority of the week building these out based on chatting with ChatGPT and what my needs are and verifying that it's built at least as I hope it's intended. So today I'm just going to cover the changes that we've made. And again, these are just functions, so we haven't really set up the triggers for these. That'll start happening in the next few episodes. But basically, from what I understand is we started with the start battle. And then from here, we added battle unit reference types. Interesting. I put 2. Oh well. I named one. I already think that's a mistake. But in any case, we're moving forward. I named one to set enemy units, and then one to set player units. It's really the same. Battle unit reference. Struck battle unit reference. Let me check my struck battle unit. Player units, enemy units. Okay, well, we're just going to continue with it. I've probably got it set up so that there's both in here. Struck battle unit. Let's see. Okay. It's because I just have it as a generic actor. Team. Okay, which is going to be an enumerator. So this tells us which team it's on, player or enemy. Okay, so that's making a little more sense. So this is just helping with the nomenclature. So from the start battle, we have 2 inputs of the struck battle unit reference. And then I clicked on here and made this an array. So it's a collection of player units and enemy units. So upon start battle, we are setting them to put them in place. And then we're going to clear the turn order. So when we start battle, we are setting our units here and we're clearing the turn order. And I think that's so that there's no leftover code, maybe from a prior battle. And then we're going to get these characters all lined up for their turns using the append connected with the turn order array. And then we're going to use the set index to say, okay, it's going to be a certain player's turn. And then we're going to set the pending command, which is a struct to be, I think the default is none. And then we set the battle state. So this is where the players say, okay, we're going to wait for our turn. And that's the first battle state of start battle. And then we just update the UI and then request next turn function at the end. So this is our start battle function. And then we have next our request next turn function. And then in our request next turn function, what this does is it helps us move on over to the next character's turn without any breaking loops. So when we call the request next turn, we set the player state to waiting for turn as the battle state. And then we start saying, okay, well, who's going to be next in our index? And then, actually, I'm sorry. Then it's this should be which player are we looking at in the index? And then this is going to be with the turn order array, and the length is going to say what's it called? This is the characters whose turn it is. And then if true, we set the current index. I'm sorry, this is actually the one that says whose turn it is based on the turn order and the current index in the get. Let's see, then which one is this? Turn order, get the how many turns there are if the Unix index is greater than that. And come on over. I'm sorry, I'm not following this right now as I run through this. But then we have a validated get, and then if the left side of all of the logic we just reviewed is true, then we set the current acting unit for that player to be not in the battle state of player selecting action. So that's the one that says, okay, if it's that character's turn, then it's going to be set in the battle state here. Otherwise, the character requests the next turn. So let's request next turn. Then we have submit action. And then in submit action, we start with our pending command action type struct. And so we set it. And then we break the struct on the right-hand side by clicking right click, and then maybe it's not working right now. I guess it's not working if it's in this position, but we broke the struct, and then we set the current actor and clear all of the targets, so that way we're not selecting an incorrect target. And then from there, we set the magic and action types of our struct. And then here's where our first switch comes in. Based on whether the unit attacks or does a magic, item, or run, the battle state changes. So for attack, it's player selecting target, because when you have a character's turn, you're going to click the attack button, and then generally the response should be to select a target. However, for magic, if you click on do a magic spell, then there is a follow-on window to what's it called? Select which magic spell you want to do, and then after that would be the target. And same thing with the item, more similar to magic than immediately selecting a target. And then for run or flee, the battle state just ends. And then from there, we for each of these cases, we update the UI, except for end, where the battle ends. So this was submit action, and then we have submit magic. In submit magic, what happens is in the function from the action menu, after we select a magic, the targets are cleared just to ensure that the correct next selected target is the correct one. And then we do a set of our struct battle commands. So we set our acting unit, set the magic type, and then we set the player selecting target battle state. So after we select the magic spell, then we start working the target. And again, updating the UI shortly afterward. Next is the resolve pending command. This was the hardest one. So for resolve pending command, this says, okay, after the target's been selected, what happens next? First, it runs through some validations where if it's not valid, for the acting unit, then it returns the node. But then for the battle action button type, what we're doing here is saying if it's anything other than none, proceed to the true branch. Otherwise, I have a return and a print string. I wonder, is this... No, I think that's right. And then as far as the targets go, we're checking if the array is empty to make sure that we have a valid target. And we're seeing as long as it's attack or magic, then to proceed. So for here, I think the reasoning behind this was that I will later add item, but for instance, if I do a run does not need a target, because when you run, you just try to flee and end the battle. So it doesn't break the system if we have these like if-then statements with branches. If we run, this will not break because we're saying if it's an attack or magic and we have a target, then proceed. And if so, we're going to set the player state to selecting that target. Otherwise, resolve action. And then we're going to choose our attack magic item and run. Switch the enum battle state, and then we're moving on forward to complete the resolve pending action, which later results in afterward waiting for our turn and requesting the next turn. So for here, I'm expecting to come back in and add items throughout, but since the beginning, we've just been focusing more so even on magic than even attacks, but this is our prototype for now. And then lastly is the update UI from state. So for here, we're gathering, we have an input in the function for our battle UI, checking if it's valid. And then we're starting off to hide the menus because they should only be brought up during certain actions. And then so they're hidden unless we switch battle states to player selecting action, player selecting target, and player selecting magic spell. So this is not perfect, and I can't explain it perfectly either. This is the works of a non-programmer. So I'm expecting to run into issues, but I think this was a very good start. And we're gonna next set up how to test everything that we've created, and then we can start debugging. So I have all of these functions, and these are all great, but nothing is calling them yet. So I'm gonna create probably a new empty level, place a few enemies here and there, and then try to trigger the battle system. It's gonna be very challenging at first, but once we get something going, we have set these up to be modular and scalable. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an exciting challenge. Thank you. Cheers.